Hello everyone, Ron here from L.T.L Tutoring Central. And this week I'm talking about when to use a comma and when to use a semicolon. A lot of students get confused between the comma and the semicolon. So I just want to touch on a few tips that will help you probably in about 80 or 90% of your writing. There are a lot of rules and conventions and some exceptions when punctuating. So this little video isn't covering everything, and the comma is a very well-used punctuation mark, but this is going to cover some of the main issues that students have between the comma and the semicolon. So let's get started. Use a comma when you have an introductory phrase or clause. For example, however long it takes, comma, I will continue to help you. When you have a list, usually you will use commas to separate items in your list. In other words, 3 or more items. The list can be made up of words or it can be groups of words like phrases or clauses. For example, Sandra brought water, sunscreen, sandwiches, and a hat to the beach. And you can see commas between each of the items in the list: water, sunscreen, sandwiches. And I do recommend using the comma before and. Sometimes it's optional, but it's best if you use it. The other example, the teacher said that the test would be difficult, that it would be long, and that it would be 60% of our final mark. So here you see groups of words in a list separated by commas. Now, when there is already internal punctuation, in other words, there may already be commas or other internal punctuation, you should use semicolons for a bigger break because you don't want too many commas. You need a bigger break between the items. So this year, my teachers are Mr. Thomas, comma, math, semicolon, Ms. Jones, comma, English, semicolon, Mr. Black, comma, chemistry, semicolon, and Ms. Halo, comma, religion. So each teacher and subject are combined with a comma, and then the semicolons are used to give a bigger break between those larger separations in the list. Now this is one that I really wanted to do the blog and the video on this week because a lot of students have problems when using coordinating conjunctions in their sentences, and these are used a lot in writing reports and essays and speeches. So it's good to know these basic rules. Here are the coordinating conjunctions. There's only 7 of them: for, and, nor, but, or, yet. So some people use the mnemonic fanboys to remember that. When joining an independent clause and a phrase with a coordinating conjunction, you should not use a comma. Haley does very well in math, but not in English. And you can see that what follows but is not an independent clause, so we don't require a comma, and we shouldn't have a comma. When joining independent clauses with a coordinating conjunction, you do need a comma. Haley does very well in math, but she does not do well in English. Now you can see that this sentence is not terribly different from the one we had in the last slide, but the difference is that after the coordinating conjunction but, we have a subject, she, and of course the predicate does not do well in English. In other words, you've combined 2 complete sentences or 2 independent clauses. You can think of an independent clause just as a complete sentence. So Haley does very well in math, we could just put a period there, and we could write another sentence that says she does not do well in English. So these are 2 complete sentences joined by a coordinating conjunction, and that requires a comma before the coordinating conjunction, in this case, the word but. When joining an independent clause, remember that's like a complete sentence, and a dependent clause, a comma is often not used if the dependent clause comes after the independent clause. For example, he went to the mall after he left the classroom. So the dependent clause after he left the classroom follows the complete sentence, he went to the mall. So we don't require a comma here. When the dependent clause comes first, it is often treated similarly to an introductory clause or phrase, and you would use a comma. After he left the classroom, comma, he went to the mall. Conjunctive adverbs and transitional expressions, there are lots and lots of them, so I can't list them all. When joining two independent clauses with a conjunctive adverb or a transitional expression, use a semicolon before and a comma after the conjunctive adverb or transitional expression. That sounds very complicated, but the basic idea is that if you're joining two complete sentences, remember independent clauses are like complete sentences, and you're not using one of the coordinating conjunctions, you will likely need a semicolon before and a comma after. For example, she did not practice as instructed, semicolon, therefore, comma, she did not win the game. The other example, Fred is an interesting guy, semicolon. On the other hand, comma, he can sometimes be annoying. So you see here we have two complete sentences joined by a conjunctive adverb or by a transitional expression. So we need the combination of semicolon and comma. So there you have it in very brief form, some of the uses of the comma and the semicolon. I really wanted to look at especially joining independent and dependent clauses and phrases in sentences, because that includes a lot of the writing you will do for essays or reports or speeches. So even though this is a brief video, it does cover a fair bit of ground. Now, there are a lot of punctuation rules that it didn't cover, however, so if you want to learn more, I'm going to put a discount link below for my course on punctuation made so easy, and it covers a lot more information on all different kinds of punctuation, including a lot more on the comma and the semicolon. Now, don't forget to look for the notification bell and click on that. Subscribe to my channel or like the video. You can always comment or ask a question. Check out the website. I'll put a link below for that. And you can get a hold of me through the website as well, of course, and check out the blog and leave comments or questions there too. So lots of ways you can get in touch. And don't forget to keep learning and keep having fun. Practice with some sentences. Look back to the video once in a while to see if you remember when you should be using a comma and when you should be using a semicolon. In the meantime, have fun and keep learning, and I'll see you later. It's Ron from L.T.L. Tutoring Central. Bye-bye for now.